And there's a lot of, things that we need to know about, things we need to think about that, the online booking systems, the larger, Costco's and stuff aren't going to think about. And so it's really showing that how you can level up that experience and be that customer service person. You think of, like, I always say your customer or your client should never have to ask what happens next, because you're the professional in the room and you guide them. So it's just like training, you're guiding them. And so it was really just showing them, I got you, you go on this vacation, you go enjoy this. A lot of times it was anniversary trips, honeymoons. Like, I was do those once in a lifetime experiences, and you don't want them to go bad. So it's really showing them how you can level up that experience and provide value of what they could get from working with an independent travel person versus just doing it on their own or going with one of the larger agencies.
And welcome back to the Money, the Mindset, and the Mentoring podcast. Today, we have a super awesome guest today with us, Shelly Niehaus. And Shelly, you are a list building coach. You are a brand coach. You are everything about when we talk about the idea of building a business, not building in your business, working on your business. I want to talk about it with you. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here.
Now, you've got quite a sort of background. When I say sort of, doesn't mean like you're in prison or anything, but sort of, although sometimes in the gym it feels that way. But when you were doing as a fitness coach, you've done luxury travel stuff, you're doing corporate photography, you've done all these different things, and it's really given you a nice, varied perspective on what it means to be successful in business. So I want to pick your brain a little bit about it and start giving the audience some value.
That sounds great.
So let's talk a little bit about, what did you learn from those different environments? What was the one thing that you're like, I walked away from all of these things saying, here's what it means to be successful?
As you mentioned, they're very different, and you would think they probably don't have a lot of commonalities, but there was something that I just noticed, and it's what moved me into the coaching field that I'm in now, is there's a very consistent brand awareness, customer service, just high touch experience that needs to be provided in those industries. And a lot of times the people that were photographers, trainers, or travel advisors, they were so excited about the technical parts of the industry, like the physical training. They were great technicians in the business, but they didn't know the customer service, the marketing, the lead gen, just the things that, not only bring people into your business, but also keep them there, and the surprise and delight, and keep them coming back. And I really learned from start to finish what it takes to really level up, stand out from your competition, have that unique selling proposition, and deliver a great customer service experience that will turn them into a raving fan and keep your customers referring others. And if you can master that, you've got the formula down.
Well, when you think of a fitness instructor, and really what they're doing is they're helping, that small percentage of the population who wants to keep fit to continue to do hard things. And they're not asking them to go out and eat a bag of Cheetos. They're asking them to go do some burpees or, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, whatever it is. And so to keep them engaged into doing something difficult, you have to create an experience that they want to keep on coming back, or they're just not going to, because you're not selling cupcakes and rainbows.
That's right. And for me, it was connecting. If you can connect, first of all, you have to show them, in your marketing, why they should care. So you have to connect with them before they ever come into your business as to why they even should care or want to work with you. But then when you get them there, you have to keep them engaged. As you said, you have to keep them caring. And it's all about that motivation, just connecting with them, helping them really connect with their why. And again, just that it's not about the burpees. It's not about, it's not about the way they look in the end. And yes, that's important, but it's their why. And if you can help them connect with their why, and then at the end, celebrate that, surprise and delight them, and keep them coming back for more. That's the thing that so many business owners miss, because they get so caught up in the weeds of what they're physically teaching or doing that they forget to look at it from that person who's standing on the other side of them and what they really want and why they're there in the first place.
Absolutely. I mean, as somebody who has twins, you probably relate to this. It's not about the labor, it's about the baby, or in your situation, babies. And, but I guess not babies anymore, though. That was a little while ago.
They're 6 feet. They look down on me now. They play offensive line, so they're not babies.
No, definitely not. That's amazing. That's amazing. Now, when we break that into the idea of the luxury travel, now that's on the almost the opposite end of the spectrum, because we talk a little bit about, doing the hard things and the why that's driving them. Now they're doing the easy things, which is getting on a cruise ship, or I don't know what kind of travel you were doing. But the idea that it's all luxurious and stuff. What was the different thing about there? Because again, when it comes to creating that moment for them, it's a different experience.
It is, but it's all about the experience again, because especially in this online world, they can go book online, they can go through Travelocity. And so it's again connecting with them before they ever walk in the door is why should they go with you? Why should they care? And it's about explaining to them the experience and what you offer and what you bring to the table. And again, the problems that you solve, because a custom high-end luxury travel experience is very custom. And there's a lot of, things that we need to know about, things we need to think about that, the online booking systems, the larger, Costco's and stuff aren't going to think about. And so it's really showing that how you can level up that experience and be that customer service person. You think of, like, I always say your customer or your client should never have to ask what happens next, because you're the professional in the room and you guide them. So it's just like training, you're guiding them. And so it was really just showing them, I got you, you go on this vacation, you go enjoy this. A lot of times it was anniversary trips, honeymoons. Like, I was do those once in a lifetime experiences, and you don't want them to go bad. So it's really showing them how you can level up that experience and provide value of what they could get from working with an independent travel person versus just doing it on their own or going with one of the larger agencies.
Yeah, I love that. The fact that you said this, I think, is super important, is that your customer should never ask you what should happen next. Your customer should respect you as the professional, and you should respect yourself as the professional to always be guiding them in the journey, because you're the one who's been there before. Maybe they've been there before, but not there with you. And so the idea is you're going to be the authority on the situation. You're going to walk them through and create that moment of success for them and delight in the process.
And they want you to do that. I mean, that they're paying you, whatever industry it is, that's what they're paying you for. And I think a lot of times that's another thing I see is we sometimes forget that we are the professional and we need to be in charge and not let them, like start to get antsy and call the shots. So the more confident you can be in that process with your customer service and your fulfillment and your follow-up, the more they're going to trust you and not feel that need to start micromanaging what you're doing as a professional.
Yeah. And it's interesting when I think of new people into an industry, when they, I own a mortgage brokerage, for example, and we get these new agents all the time, and they always have this fear of the fact that maybe their customer might know more, or that they don't know enough just in general, and that they're going to talk about things that they don't understand. And to show them, well, it's okay, because we've got a process here, because you've all these people are going to back you up. And you're probably, even though you think you don't know what you actually know more than you think you know. And if you're 1 or 2 or 3% more than the audience that you're talking to and what you know, you're significantly ahead of the game on that one. Just stay that marginally ahead, and that's going to be super helpful. And then leverage the team there that is the 20, 30, 50% ahead. And I think that's so super important, especially when somebody's new in an industry.
Absolutely. And I always say, back to what you said, they just have to know a little bit more than you have to know a little bit more. You have to be a few steps along that journey, and like give yourself that grace, because add that you bring value to the table. Like, I would not even want to try to start thinking about my own mortgage. So anyone on your team, even the most junior person, is much more qualified to be handling mortgages than I am. So
yeah,
they just need to remember that their person is coming to them looking for that expertise.
Yeah. No, I think so much. Now, when we kind of pivot the idea to the, we're talking about a little bit about the in-person experience. So we pivot that to the online experience. Talk to me a little bit about the idea of the whole social world and what sort of is your perspective on that.
Well, I think it's funny when people start worrying about social media. I feel people look at social media and it's like they shut down. They don't understand that at the end of the day, social media is just about creating conversations. What do we do in in-person marketing? Or in-person networking, we go out, we go meet people in rooms, we create conversations. So it's just about creating conversations. So if you take that filter and you think, okay, I'm just going online, if it's LinkedIn, if it's Facebook, Instagram, whatever, and I'm just starting out with conversations, and you start to create those conversations and you create that, like, let's connect, I always say create learn from me content, not look at me content, because that's a huge thing that a lot of people miss. But if you just go out there and you start showing your expertise and creating conversations, it's naturally going to lead to people wanting to work with you, come into your world. And again, that could be a podcast, anything, but just it's all about creating conversations. So if you just step back and think, how can I go online today into the online space and just start the conversation, just enter in the conversations about my zone of genius, about how I can help people, how they can come to me for help. That's all we're doing. And it's a much easier lift.
I love the idea of learn from me, don't look at me. I think that's so critically important for people to actually engage with content. I mean, isn't it when you think of really good content online, it's the one that you're like, you're screenshotting it, you're looking and going, oh, that's good stuff. Like, I need to save that for later. And even furthermore, you're actually taking that and then going and actually actioning it and doing it. And that to me is like, that's the sign of good content. And so the idea is when you're creating that content, if you think that somebody can actually like walk away with this, then it's good. If you're thinking it's like, follow me for my cool tips and it doesn't give anything, like, what the heck is that for? It doesn't do anything. There's nothing there. Yeah.
I love it. I think every piece of content should offer one practical or tactical thing that they can go do tomorrow, today, this afternoon to actually create a win. Because if you can get them that quick win, they're going to come back to you for the next step and the next step. So make it easy.
Win, absolutely. And the quick win could be a laugh.
Yes.
It could be, that's your quick win. You're like, that was funny. And there's your win. Now they've just done something as a result of your content.
Yes. We call them micro commitments in the online space. Like just doing it anytime you can get them to comment, like, just engage with you in any way, shape, or form. It brings them one step closer to connecting with you and working with you.
Yeah. Now the intent when you're on the online, and I always say with online content, I went to the bank the other day and I went to go, pay for my mortgage, and I brought in my, 200 likes and my 400 subscribes and a couple of views, and that for some reason I didn't get the memo that I could pay my mortgage with those. So when somebody has that mindset, they kind of get frustrated around that. What's the mechanism to help them understand that there is value in social media?
So social media is usually, in my opinion, it's top of funnel. It's the top part. It's just about creating conversations. It's just about getting that high level awareness. You're not, as you said, you're not going to be able to pay your bills with your likes and your comments, but when you go on social media, you should start with the end in mind. So, we've all heard that saying, start with the end in mind. So when you start on social media, where do you want to take them? Where do you want to take them to on what's the next step in their journey after social media so that they can start working with you? I love email because that brings them closer to your world. You own the list. You're no longer, connecting with them on rented land. They're now in your world. You can connect with them as often as you want, and you can segment your list. You can have independent conversations, like more private conversations, give them more targeted information based on how they came into your world. So it completely changes the relationship. I always say doing business on social media is like trying to do business in a restaurant. It's loud, it's noisy. You never can control who's going to stop by your table, interrupt. They could close the restaurant down at any time. It's gone. But when you bring him into your email list, it's like you brought him into your home. You now control the tone, you control the conversation, you control the menu, and that's what your email list can do for you. And then that is where you sell to them. So you open up the relationship, you connect with them through email, through nurturing them, and that's when you present the opportunities, whatever it is that you're selling, and that's where your sales are going to come from.
And that makes so much sense. I mean, the Rolling Stones was signed in a napkin. I get it. In a busy restaurant. That's a great story, but that's not a story that happens every day. And the idea that we're going to see that happen, you're at a busy trade show, you're at a busy restaurant, you're online, there's a lot of activity happening. Somebody's moving in for a moment and then gone on the next. And the idea is to then put them, as you say, take them from the rented land and bring them into the space that you own, that you can now curate a relationship further through the content that you're going to provide to them, through the value you're going to give them, and then for the commitment they're going to give back in return to keep on actioning what you're going to do. And that's how you're going to build your own audience in your own space and then convert them from there.
Yes.
Yeah, that sounds perfect. I love it. I love it. And that's something that I firmly believe in. And I think there's a lot of great ways to build out funnels, and there's a lot of great ways to build out different ways to interact with them, a lot of different messaging techniques. Do you have any sort of quick tips on any of those strategies?
So the one thing that I see most often where people miss the mark is they don't think about what they're putting out in the world to actually attract the right people. We think, okay, we want people on our list. We want this number, and we get caught up in the vanity metrics and all this. And I'll see people go to trade shows and give away, Amazon gift cards. You're attracting someone that wants an Amazon gift card. That has
100%.
nothing to do with the person that is going to be your ideal client that you actually are going to help solve that problem. So you need to sit down and come up with a list of 1 to 3 problems that you help solve, you help your client solve. And those problems are what you need to start creating. We call it a lead magnet, a freebie, an opt-in, some type of a way to exchange value for their email address. So when you're out there creating a checklist, maybe a home improvement checklist, how to get your house ready to go on the market checklist. If you're an esthetician, a tutorial on how to, do facials or to care for your skin. Those are problems that your audience is having that you're going to help solve. And if you're exchanging the email for that type of value, you're naturally going to build your list with the right amount of people. And that's going to have higher open rates, higher click-through rates, higher conversion rates. So the number one thing is you really need to think about what you're putting out in the world as bait to attract people into your world.
I totally agree. Personally, when it comes to trade shows, I'm a swagophobe. And when I walk around and everybody wants to give me their doily, their, water gun with their name on it, no, I don't need any of the garbage, because this is not a recycle bin I'm carrying around. In fact, I don't even want this. The only thing I want is value. And because to me, it's you need to show me something of value, and that's how we're going to connect. And then now we can move forward in the relationship. But I mean, there are people who have different languages. I mean, there are people who like that little gift. It makes them feel good. There's our people who, who like that compliment or something that you might say, and that's going to be the thing that's going to turn the tide. I think there's the book of the 5 love languages that I think people need to read. And, but the idea is, for me personally, it's no, like, give me value, 100%. Value is my language. And if I got that, then we can have an exchange.
Right. And just something in alignment with the problem that you're going to solve. So maybe if you do have a swag, if it relates to the problem you might solve, then that might be a good one. I don't have an example off the top of my head.
Actually, to be honest, there was one swag I did really like. A lady had this little, it was like a little high heel shoe. And she'd just go into offices and put it on the front desk, and she would say, just trying to get my foot in the door. And she did like lead magnet stuff, and she did stuff like that. So I was like, that's actually pretty sick swag.
Yeah, that's creative. Again, so it works
good.
for her. And you have to be in alignment with your personality. That's the other thing, is just because someone tells you to do something, if it's not in alignment with your brand and your personality and feels authentic to you, I look for something else. Because if I have a scorecard where people can go and track how often they share their lead magnet. And if you don't love it, if you're not excited about it, you're not going to want to talk about it. So I always say you want to treat that lead magnet or value. It's almost like a baby. You're showing that photo off to everyone. You're talking about it like it is your pride and joy. And so if you're not excited about whatever it is you're using to trade value for people on your list, the email, then maybe find something else that does excite you, because it's something that you need to be passionate about.
Absolutely. That leads to the next topic about talking about personal brand. And I think a lot of people discount that. You work for a large organization, you think you work for Coca-Cola or something like that. What people don't realize is that people are buying from you, right? And so let's talk a little bit about the idea of building up your personal brand, and what's your perspective on that?
Well, I feel like personal brand has really been elevated, especially in this digital world, because everyone, whether you like it or not, especially if you're a service-based business, you really can't hide behind your brand anymore. You have to be the face of your business. You need to be a forward-facing business. And that's because customers want to know who they're doing business with before they ever pull out their wallet. They want to know, like, and trust you. And if you're not putting your face out there, if you're not putting content out that is authentic to who you are and who your brand is and connecting with them, it's not going to resonate and they're going to go to your competition. And I always say that your personal brand really consists of three things. It's your name, which is your logo, your name, and all that. It's your face. So you have to have some quality imagery. Doesn't have to be this loads and loads of professional photography, but you need some quality image of yourself, your office, your creative space, whatever it is that allows people again to connect with you. And then the third thing is how you make people feel. And you want to make people feel just connected with you. And so again, you're wanting to attract and repel, attract the people that you want to work with, repel the people that you don't. And by putting out quality content that is aligned with who you are and your vision, your values, and your passion, it's naturally going to do that. And you're going to bring that ideal person into your world. And all that kind of like, I guess, develops your personal brand. And that will help you elevate yourself, because again, a thing I hear often is my market is so saturated. There's no way I can stand out. I'm like, well, if you lean into this personal brand, you're naturally going to connect the people who want to work with you. And there's going to be no doubt that when they need someone that you solve that problem, they're going to come to you because you're the person.
Absolutely. Whenever I hear somebody say that and they say the market's too saturated, I'm always chuckling when I hear it. I mean, real estate agents, think about that. If the market's too saturated, why would you ever become a real estate agent? There's like one in every single corner. When I became a real estate agent in 2014, there was everywhere. But I still crushed out 40 some houses in my first year of real estate that I sold.
Yep.
And I was able to do that because of personal branding, because of conviction, like as you say, creating an amazing client experience. I hope I did that. I feel like I did that through building really good trust and through honesty and integrity. And so in a super saturated space, I think there's always something. I think the opposite would be is if you're going into a space that nobody's there, you might want to wonder why you're there. And because you're the one who's going to suffer every single first problem. At least when somebody else has been there, they've hit it, you could probably learn from them.
And there's market proof that there's a need for that.
Yeah.
And you know,
there's a TAM.
like,
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, when we talk about somebody says, okay, we know we found you online, love your personal brand. You got a smiley face, great look. You've got brand congruency through everything. And now it's time to get into action. A lot of people, the idea of getting into action with somebody, it always, you can see the people who love to be the tourist of what they do. They want to show you everything, but they're never going to get you into action. Then there's the people who are committed to the business growth and the growth of their clients, because if somebody's going to benefit from your product, they're not going to benefit from not buying your product or service. In fact, you're doing a disservice. If they have the problem and you solve it, you're doing a disservice if you don't get them into your product. And so the idea is having a really good call to action and something that you can get them in and moving. What does that look like for you?
Well, to your point, I always say the answer is always no to the offer you never made. So when you're getting caught up in sales and you're wondering if I should even be making these calls to action, you are doing them a disservice, because they could even be receiving why haven't they offered to work with me? Or why haven't they extended the invitation? What's wrong with me? So you always want to be putting your offers out there. I like to see where they are in the client journey. Back to your email, this is where I think the beauty of email is you can figure out where they are in the customer journey. So if it's someone who's brand new to your world and they just downloaded your lead magnet or freebie yesterday, they may not be ready for a sale yet. They might need you to come in, nurture them a little bit. And that's where you can create some nurture sequences or just small sets of emails to warm them up. And I always say it's like those first date questions. You don't ask someone to marry you in the first date. So this allows them to come through. Most people don't. Some people might, but
it worked out for me, and my wife's still with me.
Okay. Well, for the rest of us that didn't get asked to get married on the first date, we had to date. So that's what the nurture sequence is. You're dating and you're kind of warming them up, and then you can start putting offers in front of them. And so if they've been on your list for a while, or that's when the offers can come, and depending on how they came into your world, you'll know what to offer them. So if they're at, different part of their journey, an empty nester might, if you're a real estate agent, and an empty nester might need a very different offer than the first time home buyer. And so you know that because you know how they came into your world, and you can put the right offer in front of them or the right opportunity. So again, just having that list and having it segmented and tagged and knowing how people are in your world allows you to have those better conversations, but it also allows you to create the right opportunities for them to work with you.
Absolutely. I mean, and I'm just joking, but if my wife said yes, like let's get married in the very first day, I should probably run. And because that would be a very scary situation. But the idea is that if you have some pursuit, the pursuit actually shows value. And there's a fellow, his name's Grant Cardone, and for him, when he pursued his wife, he pursued her for I think years or something, and she kept on saying no, 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 but he didn't give up because he was just committed, that he knew that that was the right woman for him. She just didn't know it yet. And finally she found a mechanism to open the door that they actually went out, and then now they've got a big business together, a bunch of kids, and a really happy life. But in that pursuit, it showed value of what he's pursuing. So if you think about your client, if in the pursuit of your client, it's not that you're pestering them, you're actually saying, no, 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 you're extremely valuable. And that's why I'm following up with you consistently, because I know I have the right thing for you.
Absolutely. And in this very busy world, people need follow-up. I mean, think about how many times you say, oh, I'm going to buy that thing on that email, and you just, get distracted. So I always say, remind is kind. So just remind your clients it's kind.
Mm-hmm.
If they don't want to be on your list, they can unsubscribe. There's always that button. They can, that's an option. So if they're still on your list, they still want to hear from you. So feel free to remind them that you are still there and you want to do business with them.
They're just in the manana moment, right? They're just like, it's tomorrow. It's tomorrow. Yep. It's manana. But then someday, tomorrow will be today.
Mm-hmm.
And if you do a good job of dropping value each time, they'll think, oh, well, it's definitely got to be today.
Yeah.
And I think that's critical. And then it comes down to, oh, yep.
No, we always think that everyone's ready to work with us, but we have to remember as business owners that probably 90% of our list isn't ready, willing, and able to work with us at this given time. But as you said, tomorrow or next 6 months from now, that's when they're going to be ready, willing, and able to work with you. And if you've pursued them and you've shown up and added value, that's when they're going to just come to you automatically.
Yeah, exactly. When we look at the general population, if you look under the DISC profile, have you ever looked at DISC?
Mm-hmm.
And you look at how much of the percentage of the population has a high S, which means they're high instability, which means they don't want change. And change is a painful thing. And so they'll stand with their feet in boiling water and be okay with it because they're just not going to change. They're like, I don't know about that grass over there. It looks pretty cold. And maybe there's an ant over there or something. And they'll just stay where they are, even though they're suffering. And so the change can be a very scary thing. And you know this from fitness. I mean, a lot of times to make somebody commit a little bit more, it takes a bit. They're thankful afterwards. Like if you get somebody to do that 20th burpee when they're only at 10 and they're ready to quit and you get them committed and they do 20, at the end of that process, they're like, thank you. Mm-hmm. And at the end of that process of telling, no, please get out of the boiling hot water. Once they finally get it, like, oh my gosh, this feels so much better. And it's because the change is the hardest thing. And so sometimes it's so hard within them, but then we have to look at our processes. How easy is it to do business with us? And is it easy? Is it a process that's a simple process? Or are we taking through our 19-step onboarding process before they can do a credit card swipe and they're tired and they're frustrated and they're annoyed and they're already dropped off?
Absolutely. I always say it should one clear call to action, like on your website. I do a lot of website reviews. It'll say, call me, book a book, go over here to book online, send me an email. And I said, what do you want them to do? Do you want them to call you, send an email, book online? Like you should have one clear call to action throughout your social media, throughout your website. And they know that is the only way that that is the golden ticket to working with you. And the other thing is make sure that people really know what you do. You'd be surprised how many people out there don't know what we do because we don't talk about it enough. We just assume that people know what we do. So talk about what we do, make it really easy to work with us, and just eliminate that friction, and you'll be ahead of your competition.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. The frictionless process, right? And
yes.
Just analyze how many clicks do they have to do to get to do business with you? How many steps are they taking? And how many options are for them to fall off in your funnel? If they're on your page and your video is like a YouTube video embedded in your page and they click on that, now they're off to YouTube. Guess where they're not coming back to buy from? They're over watching the Kardashians or what's going on in Ukraine. They're gone. They have no idea where they were.
Yes. And go through all your marketing material as if you were a client, and make sure that you don't have those rabbit holes that they can go down, because you really want to make sure it's nice and seamless and easy.
Now, speaking of nice and seamless and easy, what's the easiest way for people to get a hold of you if they want to have that review of their content to say, am I doing the right things?
Well, I have a podcast that's called Educated, Empowered, Inspired, and there's tons of content about what we talked about today, with lots of freebies and resources. And then they can also contact me at shellyniehaus.com. It has all of the resources and ways that they can start getting connected and getting some marketing assets reviewed.
The greatest thing and the biggest nemesis for both you and I is that our last names are so unique that they're so hard to spell.
Yes.
But they were probably the only ones on the planet with the name.
Yes, it is true.
Well, Shelly, it's been an absolute pleasure in chatting with you and talking about the whole idea of being able to build out a list through social media, about the idea of putting your customer experience first, and about really making you the center of your brand, because the whole idea of your own personal brand is so critically important, and then making it easy to do business with you, that frictionless Amazon your shit kind of a process.
Absolutely. We don't want anyone having to go to Amazon to buy our stuff. We want them coming to us.
Beautiful. Well, Shelly, thanks so much. And guys, this is the money. This is the mindset. This is the mentoring podcast. We'll see you on the next one.